Welcome everyone back to the second episode of the podcast. Pumped to be sitting down with founder of CarAdvice.com, Alborz Fallah, for this chat. CarAdvice was a company that Alborz grew from a $35 investment 10 years ago roughly to an eventual $35 million plus business sale in 2016. There's a lot of value I took from this conversation. I know you will too. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Well, Alborz, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Beautiful. Now, within the Brisbane startup ecosystem, Alborz, and the sort of business landscape locally here, your story and the story of CarAdvice.com is really sort of head and shoulders above and beyond anything else you really hear coming out of Brisbane. To take something from 35,
no, I don't know about that, but yeah, that's kind of you to say.
Mate, $35 to 35 mil is not a bad job in 10 years.
Yeah, it actually got sold for a reasonably higher amount of money than that. So that was just
That's the reported figure.
That's the reported figure, but yes, the actual figure is higher than that.
It always tends to be that way, doesn't it?
I guess
a few
so.
details get missed out in the media reports.
Yeah, look, I mean, it was interesting. It was a two-part sale process.
Right.
So when we sold the first part, it was at a 35 mil valuation, and when we sold the second part, honestly, we didn't know if it was going to be worth zero. We could have been.
Right.
Because at the time, based on the deal we did, it was worth zero. That was the rest of it. But we worked really hard. We managed to leverage all the assets and all the skills we had, and yeah, worked out quite well. Yeah,
well, mate, it's a great outcome either way. But I guess really just to take it back for anyone who doesn't really know you or maybe isn't familiar with the CarAdvice story, I kind of want to take this back to where this whole entrepreneurial journey first sort of started for you.
Yeah.
Which I guess actually would have been probably like 10, 11, 12, right, when you were first sort of tinkering with online businesses?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I started my first website when I was 10 or 11?
Yeah.
I think.
I heard 10, I heard 12, heard 11, so I wasn't sure where it's at.
It was like, it was like 1994, so it would have been about 10.
94?
Yeah.
That was before I was born.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, that makes me feel old. But yeah, it was 1994, so it would have been, I would have been either 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, I just always had a thing for the web.
Yeah, digital, right?
My primary school teacher got me into it, which is really bizarre to say. We had like a school class and learning how to use GeoCities.
Yeah, right.
It would have been well before your time, but it was like a web building system. And I created a website. I thought, oh, that's cool. I created a website that anyone can see, which was just like a whoa,
mind-boggling, right?
Yeah,
at the time.
And I sort of just went from there. It just exploded, and I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. Started lots of random businesses, and none of them really made money in the early days, but they cost my parents a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you did like 17, 18 ventures, right?
Yeah.
Including
sure
CarAdvice, something like that, which is staggering.
Yeah, that's true. And one of the things I always talk to people about, or when people ask me questions, is you have to be prepared to fail fast. I think a lot of people get stuck in planning a business for like 10 months or 6 to 10 months, and then they'll start looking at phases to launch it and all sorts of progresses, and it's just like, guys,
not enough action.
Just get it done. Particularly if it's an online business, it's quicker and faster, and in some ways actually cheaper in terms of time to get something up and running and see if it works than it is to spend 6 months trying to work out if it might work.
If it might work, and then start it, and then it doesn't work, and you've wasted all that time anyway,
exactly.
Right? It's
so
redundant.
For me, I've never written a business plan in my life.
I heard that.
Which is probably why I failed 17 times. But there was a lot of learnings in that.
Yeah.
So, look, I don't regret any of the failures that I had, because I think without failures, you don't really have a success.
Don't learn, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Win or learn. I wanted to touch on it a little bit later, but I guess while we're here, 17 or 18 businesses. I don't know if CarAdvice was consecutively the 17th or 18th.
It was the 17th.
Right, so it was the winner. The last one was the winner.
Yeah. Look, I've had some other minor successes along the way. We had some businesses that did quite well.
I wanted to touch on myweblog.com.
Yeah.
That one
I still own
fascinated me. Oh, you still do?
I mean, it's offline, but I still own the domain.
The domain.
Yeah.
Because that, in its heyday, I think that had towards 50,000 uniques, right? Writing blogs on the site?
I think at least 50,000 active users that were writing once a week. And that was huge. That was before Blogger. That was before the word blog actually existed.
Was a thing, right?
Yeah.
And now, there's a platform called Medium, which is probably exactly what you were sort of doing.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought if you kind of kept with my weblog and you extrapolated it out and the numbers, what would that be worth to one of the conglomerates these days?
It's really funny because when I look at we were using StatCounter back in the day, which was like a measurement tool for views, and every month it would grow at least 40-45%. And I only shut it down because it was costing my parents like $3,000 a month in hosting and maintenance, and it was crazy because hosting back then was so expensive, particularly for a high traffic website.
Because it was new, right? It
was
young.
Yeah, there wasn't, the bandwidth requirement on that site was humongous. I'd written the whole thing from scratch, so it's probably optimized like shit. So, you know, like it probably could have been written from a code perspective significantly better. But I literally wrote the entire software for that from scratch. And you know, it was a really interesting to do, really good thing to do. But yeah, it just kept growing and growing and growing and costing more and more and more. And then one day my parents were like, you gotta, like, we can't just keep, this is ridiculous. Like, it's a huge amount of money.
You didn't think to commercialize it and start to monetize it a little bit?
I'm pretty sure I was like...
Too naive to even recognize that concept?
What year would that have been? Man, I would have been like in my teenage years, like early teenage years. So
we're talking like 13, 14?
Yeah, well, I think 15 or so. I think by the time, I was in high school, so it would have been around that time. And yeah, I just went, no, okay, I better turn it off then because it's costing my parents
It's just too much money. Yeah. Didn't afterthought really. Because that's what I find really interesting.
Oh, gee, I'll tell you what, though, once I turned it off, I had about 1,000 hate mails of people going, where's all my stuff?
Right, because they're content.
I know, it's, I don't know, things you do, right?
The things you do.
The things you do. I really regret it in some ways because, like you said, I think had we actually found a way to commercialize it, make it better, it would have been huge. It could have been huge.
Could have been huge. Like we're talking probably towards $1 billion or exceeding it, like something
in
that
realm. Who knows,
realm.
man? Like it would have been one of the earliest forms of social sort of media thing because it had connections between different blogs. So you could link your blog to someone else's blog and had a little few aspects, nothing like, you know, what you see today, but there were some elementary aspects of that. So I could have definitely seen someone like Blogger coming and buying it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And what I find interesting about you is I think when we look to a lot of the sports people that are, you know, at the top 1%, like top echelon of their game, doing really well, they all started, you know, at 4 and 5 years old, and you were in the coding game, I think really young, 5 or 6, you were learning the ropes. And I guess it's unsurprising if someone is doing something from such a young age, of course, it's almost, their success is almost a foregone conclusion later in life, if they have talent. And you're building websites of this stature at 15 that are...
You know what, I was never a great coder.
Yeah.
Like I could tell you
But
people,
even the mindset or the business savvy to sort of get it started, right? I mean, it was almost, the signs were there that you were going to do something pretty incredible later on.
Possibly. I think it was more the... I didn't come from a very wealthy family. I mean, we weren't poor or anything, but it was very...
Immigrated from Iran, right? You were 9 at the time.
That's right.
What was that like?
Yeah,
was that hard?
Pretty good. Yeah, I guess it was hard. Look, I mean, I grew up in a war zone for first chunk of my life. So I lived in a border town between Iran and Iraq during the war, and I have some vivid memories of that. But, you know, my parents lived in Michigan prior. You know, my parents have both got PhDs. They're very well-educated people, and they decided to move here to give me a chance of a better life after they left the States and went back to Iran. So I'm glad they did. I'm glad they did. But you know, at the same time, like as I said, I wasn't very good at math, which is usually a coder thing. So people that are good at coding,
quantitative,
So I wasn't very good at math. I wasn't amazing at coding. In fact, one of my university lecturers once told me that clearly I'm not made out for this and I should consider a different career path, which I thought was hilarious because at the time I was running a web development business and he was a fucking uni lecturer. But, you know, like he'd never worked a day in his life, actual things he was teaching. But I think for me personally, I think the reason that I continued was I didn't want to have a normal job where I was helping someone else build dreams. Like I just wanted to do my own thing.
Couldn't breathe unless you were doing your own thing.
And also that I saw very early on that you really couldn't be wealthy if you work for someone else. It just doesn't work. Like you could be happy and you would definitely be comfortable, but you know, I haven't met too many employees who can, you know, buy lots of nice cars, and I don't know, I loved cars, so that was a big motivator for me. Which is one of the reasons why CarAdvice started. So yeah.
And on the university thing, obviously you just sort of made a comment that the university lecturers, and I guess for the most part,
I shouldn't make too many bad comments
because I know you're an entrepreneur in residence at the minute, right?
And an adjunct professor at UQ. So, yeah.
Well, you're probably the best professor there is at the whole uni.
Look, you know, I had a lot of amazing lecturers and and teachers at UQ. And I loved my time at university, which is why I do work.
You did 5 years there.
Yeah,
right,
which is why I do. And I actually worked at university as well. Actually, CarAdvice started whilst I was working full time at UQ. So it's there's a lot of memories at UQ. A lot of them I remember very fondly. So that's why I still go back.
So the majority, I mean, up until the point that you start CarAdvice in 2006, I guess you were just tinkering with businesses, playing around with things, experimenting. Were you taking school super serious at the time? High school and then even in the early days?
Look, I did mainly because I was told growing up that
that's the way out.
If you don't get a great OP, your life is ruined. And I think, I don't know if that's still the case now in high school, where that's sort of the mentality, but certainly when I was growing up, that score was like a determine your net worth.
That's your worth. Yeah,
it was really poor, man. Because as I said, I wasn't amazing at math, and as a result, like I spent a lot of time doing Math B, tutoring.
That's a hard math. Why are you doing that?
Oh, you had to get into IT.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so
prerequisite. Yeah,
prerequisite, and I feel like I spent 45% of my time learning something that meant nothing to me. And the rest of it doing stuff that I kind of like. I was good at school, but I wasn't anywhere near the best at anything.
There's always
So
the
thing is, I also never really cared enough to want to be, because it didn't mean anything to me. And I knew at the time when I said this, people would go, "Oh, no, that's not true." Like I'm gonna say, "Well, when am I ever going to use this in my life?" They go, "Oh no, you will," or it'll mean something to you. And well, it's been God knows how many years, and I haven't still used any Math B, so. I'm wondering why I was learning it. It was pointless. It was utterly, completely pointless.
Wow.
Yeah.
At the time, did you half know where you were going?
No, I had no idea.
Couldn't see it.
No. I don't think anyone does, man.
Was the seed there though? Did you have a feeling every now and then I'm probably going to take a different path to most people? Like you're questioning the why am I doing Math B, and other people saying, oh, you're going to use it. So your thinking's already a little bit different.
I think everybody questions doing any form of math unless they're really good at it. But
I guess that's fair.
I had a website at school that people, it was kind of like a
I hate Netscape.
I hate Netscape. It's
about Indrapilli High.
Strangest thing, right? It was a website I started because I hated Netscape, which is just the weirdest thing to start. But somehow it turned into this website where people from school could write stuff about each other. And it became the second most or third most visited site from the school intranet. Till they finally turned it off and said you can't access this. But I remember my IT teacher, which I actually saw quite recently, talking to me and saying, well, what are you doing? Like, what have we built this for? And what is this for? Like, why don't you actually do the assignments for the IT subject that you're in and stuff like that? And I was like, oh, this is way more interesting, like I literally built this thing from scratch.
Yeah.
And people are talking shit about each other. Like,
oh, but naturally, kids, right?
Yeah.
Give them access to a website
that was well before Facebook and stuff. So,
yeah.
Obviously there was...
The human dynamics are there. I guess it was just waiting for the right mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. That need for bitching and gossiping was there.
Socializing.
Provided the outlet in the weirdest form.
I hate Netscape.com.
Yeah.
Love it. Let's get into CarAdvice.
Yeah.
So 2006, you're 21 years old at the time, so graduated from high school. How many years are you into uni at this point?
I think I'd finished uni at that point, or was just about to finish.
At 21?
No, so that doesn't sound right, does it?
Yeah, no.
I think it was about a year before I finished uni. Year and a half before I finished uni.
Yeah.
2006. It was, look, as I said, I was working, at the time I was running an internet cafe in St. Lucia called .0, which was one of the worst businesses I ever ran.
Didn't do quite well. I thought those were the ones that my weblog and the internet cafe were the ones that were pretty good.
The internet cafe did really badly, but the attached business to it, which was like a software development and a web development firm of the same name, is actually where we made money. But the actual internet cafe itself was like a kindergarten,
right?
Which was such a waste of time. But what it got me into was there was a client came to us, a dealer, that wanted us to build them a classified solution where they could list their cars. So, take some photos of the cars they have on the lot, go in the back end, upload the photos, put in the description, and it'll go live on their site.
Yep.
And I remember I charged them $800 to build this, which in retrospect should have probably been about 80 grand. But
at the time,
$800. I mean, you think about it now, and you kind of go $800. Like that guy would have thought, really? Like,
seriously?
Did he miss a zero or two? I literally built that system again from the ground up, and doing so, I realized how little information there was online
about cars,
and I thought, man, like this is ridiculous. Like there's nothing. I mean, there's plenty of dealer software, and even at the time there was plenty of dealer software, but nothing that really took the web seriously. And I thought, $800, man, I could sell this $800 thing to at least 20 other people. Like, back then you think, oh, that's great, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I built the software, I supported it for a while, and then we closed the internet cafe down because it was a terrible business. I sold the software side of that business and the business side of that business to my co-partner, and sort of moved on. I sort of given up on being an entrepreneur at that point. I'd done it a lot for a long time, and uni was getting a bit too much, and my parents were like, oh, maybe get a real job. So I was working a bit part-time at the University of Queensland
doing the IT gig,
doing
right?
the IT stuff.
Yeah.
And then they offered me a full-time job, and felt a little bit sick taking it, but I took the job. And
I find it interesting that you did feel a little sick taking it. So the seed was there, like you kind of knew this probably isn't for me, but I guess there was the opinions of others that were sort of...
when I knew, and this sounds a bit awful to say, I suppose, but I knew when I realized that some of those people had been there for like 15 years.
No, it's real.
And I was like, I don't want to be that person. Like, I spent a couple of months working there, maybe close to 6 months working there full time, and yeah, like some of these guys had literally been there in that same position, or perhaps moved up 1 or 2 levels in a 15-year period, where their salary increase would have been 20 grand at best, or something like that. And look, that's fine, and a lot of people love the security.
If it works, right? If it works for them, that's cool, but it's just not you.
And working in a government institution like UQ, which pays really well for the work, and also pays amazing
benefits.
super.
Yeah, I bet.
Like, for a lot of people, that is a great gig, and my parents were delighted when I got a job at UQ, because they thought I finally made something of myself.
Yeah.
So they were horrified when I quit. But I quit because my then supervisor one day pulled me aside and said to me, there's a lot of people that say every time they walk past your screen, they're just pictures of cars. And we're just sort of wondering, if you're actually doing anything. I suppose was the she didn't say it in those terms, but that's what she really meant. It was really funny because I had a project that I was supposed to do. It's like create this database for something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's like create a database management. And I had it for 6 months, and when I did the handover to the next guy, all I had was an A4 piece of paper with like some boxes. That was the extent.
You'd barely done
that
anything.
was the extent of the work I'd done.
So you literally are like doing CarAdvice more than you're doing your actual job. Kind of.
Because they gave me this side project because I was bored. Because I asked them, can I,
do something fun,
can I do
please?
something? Like, I'm bored out of my mind. Oh, why don't you create this database? And there was no direction. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And
go do it.
I'm one of those guys that if it's something that I'm interested in, I will work
tirelessly,
24/7. If it's something that someone else wants me to do that I don't really give a shit about, I probably just won't do it. And it was pretty clear that I wasn't going to do it. So when I did the handover, I actually felt embarrassed because I was like, oh, okay, well, can you run me through this database project you're working? I'm like, well, here's an A4 piece of paper that I drew up this morning.
So there you go.
Yeah. So anyway, when we had that conversation with my supervisor, I quit on that day. So
on that day. That was 6 months in.
Yeah,
roughly.
I don't know exact timings, but it's about then. And I looked at the bank account and I realized I was earning more money from CarAdvice
at the time than you were from your job.
Than I was from the job, and I didn't actually realize that. That's how poor I was at looking at things. And I thought, no shit, I'm earning more money from CarAdvice. And I thought, oh, well, that probably explains a few things. But it was just AdSense, like AdSense was just dumping money into my account every month.
You're not even realizing.
Well, yeah, I mean, at that point I wasn't really exactly on top of finances, but and it just kept growing. So I think like 2 months prior to that, CarAdvice was delivering maybe a fourth of my income, and then it was delivering more than my income from UQ. And then all of a sudden I thought, right, well,
it makes sense to make the switch.
Maybe I should quit.
Yeah.
And we had an investor at the time who was willing to put in about half a year of my salary just to give me peace of mind. He made so much money from that investment, but
get in early, right? It pays its dues.
Yeah, I think put in 20 grand and walk away with about 6 mil, so it's a good investment.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad.
Look, it's average.
Yeah, it's not bad. So he put in the money just to, and at the time I was earning like 45, 50 grand a year, and just to give me that confidence that I could do this for 6 months. And I mean, I lived at home, so I had no cost anyway.
No overheads. You backed the right horse for sure.
Yeah, I guess so. And it certainly made a lot of money. And I quit, man. I quit on that day, and my supervisor was really shocked. No, I don't want you to quit. I just want you to maybe work.
Just tone it down. Just actually do your job.
Yeah. Maybe work an hour a day and do the car 7 hours a day. I don't know. But no, I just thought, oh, I'm not. There's no point being there if you don't want to be there.
And you can't see the future.
Yeah.
Talk me through the importance of passion in business. Do they go hand in hand? Are they mutually exclusive? Should you do the things that make the money that you aren't passionate about?
It's really cliche. I've met a lot of rich, successful dentists and doctors who I can tell you probably aren't as passionate about their job as I am about cars and the web. So I'm sure you can be successful in business without having absolute passion. But I think as an entrepreneur, and that's the difference. I think as an entrepreneur, passion has to be at the absolute forefront. Like you have to have a burning desire to make something work, to make it work. That's for me anyway. Like,
otherwise you won't? Or otherwise you just won't put in the necessary work? Or
I think otherwise...
The first hiccup, you give up?
Yeah, otherwise you tend to find a few excuses. Like I've done a lot of businesses where I've started a business because I thought I found a niche where I could make money. And after, like I used to run this website about Windows, like...
I remember the
Microsoft
blog.
Windows, and it was going well.
Before the software came out, right? You were
it was
blogging.
it was on Vista, which is, as you can see how old that is now. But it was the idea was that I was going to have like a definitive website about all the documentation and technical stuff about Windows Vista. And you know what? It was doing quite well. It was getting a lot of traffic. I didn't sell any ads on it. Again, I didn't know how to monetize it properly or anything like that. But as a website, it was quite successful. But after about a year, I was like, man, I just don't care. Like. I hate Windows. I'm a Mac guy. Like,
you're a Mac guy.
I'm a Mac guy.
I would not think that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the tech people seem to be Windows people.
No, that's why I usually don't like most tech people. I don't get along with them. They're all like, they're all like to tinker and be all geeky and stuff.
Yeah.
But I like something to work, which is why I'm
simple,
a Mac guy.
clean. I'm the same.
Yeah.
I love Mac.
Yeah. So like again, it's a business that would have been successful for someone other than me who would have happily ran it because they actually had some passion about that subject. And in retrospect, I should have just found someone and gave him the business. But again, I just turned it off.
Took a cut. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you like just turning the off switch, don't you?
Well,
not working off.
I sometimes, what I did? I didn't do it with one business, which was a restaurant review site called New Brisbane, which was again a really good site. It was doing really well. It was feeding me through uni because I was getting free food coming to review restaurants and bars and clubs and stuff. So I was getting like VIP treatments everyone went, which is great for dates.
I bet.
Yeah, but it wasn't paying me. It was feeding me. It wasn't paying me. And I thought, I can't turn this off because this is so successful. Every time we Googled any other restaurants that I reviewed, it would come up first because that was sort of my expertise, was the SEO side. And I gave it to someone to run. And then it was this like 2-year legacy of me helping them or like, them asking me questions. And I was like, I should just fucking turn it off.
Yeah.
Because the mental drain was so high with little gain. Like nothing for me personally. Like it was just an emotional attachment to this business that I felt like shouldn't die because I had New Brisbane, we had New Melbourne, we had New Sydney, and it was kind of like the idea was we'll create a restaurant review network around Australia, but man, the work required was so high and that wasn't the issue. The issue was the returns were so low. It was just basically free food and potentially maybe a couple of grand of advertising.
Press a few dates and
like it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it.
A big thing for a lot of people who are starting out, especially I guess within the context of everything being public on social media and everyone having access to everyone's lives and things of that nature. When you start something, people kind of know. And in the early stages, I guess you're vulnerable to criticism because you're starting something, you may be putting yourself out there a little bit and you're not making money or you don't have that much traction. So it's easy for people to kind of, to criticize and say, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
I mean, did you share when you were first starting out, even with the other businesses, were you sharing that with friends and family? Were you saying, hey, by the way, I'm doing this little bit business venture and this is what I'm up to? Did you share it with people or was it work in silence and produce the results?
I never cared. So certainly in the early days, there wasn't social media for me to share my initial ventures.
But even just conversationally, were you like, hey, mum, dad, I'm doing this, or
no,
hey, Bill, like this is what I'm up to?
Not really. Not because of that reason, but because I just didn't care. Like I didn't care for what the opinion of others were. But
do you care now? Do you care what people think?
No, I mean, when CarAdvice started, obviously Facebook was around, and I was on Facebook, and we'd post stuff, and I had plenty of people tell me like, why would anybody care what you think about cars? Like, what the fuck do you know about cars?
Who are you?
Who are you? All that sort of stuff, and I was like, I don't know. You don't have to read it. Like, I'm not making you read it, dude.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah,
simple.
Like, how's your job? But but seriously, like I see that today a lot. Like you said on Facebook, where someone starts something. And then everybody just has a go or whatever. But at the same time, like, I feel like today a lot of people spend more time curating their social to talk about what they've started than actually fucking work on what
Doing
they've
it,
started.
right?
That happen. I see that so much where there's so much, hashtag entrepreneur going on.
Entrepreneur in the bio, you're not making $1 from your entrepreneurship ventures.
Doesn't matter if you're not making money, but I think like.
I just think don't put it there. If you're not making a living
Look,
from it, are you really an entrepreneur?
There's that old saying of fake it till you make it thing, but then that's fine. I totally get it. But I'm just saying, like, spend as much time promoting your entrepreneurship and actually working on the project of your subject that you're supposedly an entrepreneur for. So I know a lot of entrepreneurs. Like, I'm in that field, right? And the most successful ones you wouldn't know are entrepreneurs because they don't have hashtag entrepreneur in their Instagram profile. I do actually, so I'm being a bit of a
little bit different.
But
you're entrepreneur in residence, so it's kind of it's in the title. You got
less
away
wanky
with
that way.
And you get the hashtag, so you get all the traffic.
I feel like social media is such a waste of time sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you're quite present there.
I am quite present there because a lot of people in the industry follow me, so I feel like it's an obligation to continue to post.
Do you care about like personal brand and things like that and getting your name out there?
I used to for a while, but it has a lot of negative connotations as well because
well, it can come across narcissistic, like even some of the things I do, or like anyone posting about themselves, they're like, oh, you're up yourself a little bit, but you're really just trying to share a message and you're trying to utilize the vehicle that's there to distribute your content and your message and things like that.
It's really funny because I go to the States a lot. And I love the States. It's my favorite place to go. And the
LA, right? Is it
LA, New York, everything, all of it. I love it, all of it. Maybe not the absolute Midwest. They don't really like me there. But the culture there is so different, and they celebrate success so differently. Like they put people that are successful on pedestals, and they sort of the experience to learn and sort of see what they have to say and how they got there and all that. It's such a different culture. And then in Australia, I feel like if you have any form of self-promoting or if you talk about anything you've done that's done well, people go, what a wanker, or he's just talking shit about himself. Or there's definitely a tall puppy syndrome in Oz that's very, very prevalent. And I found that when we got a lot of media when we sold the business. The most amount of interest I got was from overseas, not from Australia, even though all the media was Australian coverage. I got a lot of people contact me from overseas. I'd love to learn and blah blah blah. A lot of Americans, a lot of North Americans.
Success inspires. They're not threatened by it, or they're not like, he's doing better than me.
For them,
so.
I mean, I guess they're selfish in a way, thinking, I'm going to see if I can learn anything from this guy, and that's cool. Like, I don't mind if I've got time, I'm happy to answer questions and whatever. But in Oz, I feel like I need to better keep my head down because I don't want anyone to sort of have a go at me or anything.
That's the funniest thing about you. The juxtaposition is one of the most stark contrasts I've ever seen, because on one hand, your Instagram is luxury cars. I mean, you've got more than a handful of cars, and they're the most beautiful cars I've ever seen. And you are the most down-to-earth bloke I've ever met. Like,
talk to my wife.
I came across you.
She may disagree, but anyway.
Well, when I first met yourself and Anna, obviously, you were looking at houses, and embarrassingly, I didn't actually know who you were. So I rock up to our first appointment, and you're like, "Hi, my name's Alborz. This is Anna, but you can call me Al." And just totally normal, down-to-earth. Don't dress, no ego. But then on the other hand, you're this, so it can be misinterpreted. But people don't understand. I guess it's easy to make a snap judgment, but you need to look deeper to see the real thing that's behind the scenes.
I guess so. Like I'm very self-conscious about not coming across as a complete wanker, because when you've got, when people Google you and they sort of see what's out there, they can form an opinion pretty quickly, and then they look on your Instagram profile and see like I'm traveling around the world and doing all sorts of stuff. But that's my job actually. But even my own cars, people go, like. It's a bit out there, a bit showy, a bit flashy, but and I literally had a vision board in my parents' house in my room, and in that vision board, probably 18, 19, I had a vision board, and I had things I wanted on it. Like I got into personal development really early. I did everything from Landmark, which is a cult, to Tony Robbins. I just went through the whole thing. I felt like my mind was a piece of clay and it was just absorbing everything and being molded. And then, I got a vision board and I put it up and I put everything I wanted on it. There's a lot of cars on there. There were some other just visual thoughts, things that I really just aspired to in my life. I had an apt description of my wife written out and put it on the vision board. Like literally description of this person I wanted to marry. And honest to fucking God, I did marry that person. Like it's incredible to think. You know, I wasn't as specific, like not fucking batshit crazy wasn't on the list. But other than that,
Anna isn't watching this.
yeah, she won't mind. Like it's true. Like I really sort of set up what I wanted in life with and I looked at it every day and I sort of saw it and I saw myself in it, and then I just found a way to get there. You know, like so when I post a picture of my Ferrari, you know, I'm hanging out with my friends or doing something, that makes me happy. Like that's me saying to my 18-year-old self that it works.
I did it.
Like, I don't give a fuck if someone doesn't like it. Like, if someone goes, oh, look at that guy, he's just showing off. It's like, no, man. Like, when you were out partying 18, 19,
I was planning.
I was fucking
hustling.
working my ass off. I had like $4 and, you know, like I remember going to walks with a friend of mine who's also done really well. And, you know, we were both broke as fuck. And like, you know, everyone else was out, you know, they had jobs and they were going out because they were earning 40 grand a year and going out to the family or to Cloudland or whatever and having a great time.
It was huge back in the day, yeah.
It was huge, man. I used to go as well, but like I just didn't have, I had to keep it realistic, you know. I saw early on, and I had a few friends that were quite successful that were older than me, that they spent that period of time working. Because that period of time is the best time to fucking work, man. Early 20s, like late teens, early 20s to before you get married and have kids. That's it.
Golden hours.
That's the fucking, you're young, you're energetic, you've got motivation, you don't get tired. You know, you can party for 3 hours and fucking work for the rest and you still make something of it. So to spend all that fucking time wasted is a complete waste of life in my opinion. That's not saying you can't do it later. A lot of people do, with much more experience. But I think for me personally, what worked was in those years, I definitely missed out a lot in life. Like I definitely didn't, like I wasn't doing parties, I wasn't doing all sorts of random shit. I didn't do traveling much. I just focused on what I wanted to get out of things. And I failed a lot, man. So it was pretty discouraging when we shut down our internet cafe and I felt like I spent 2 years of my life.
For nothing.
Where I hadn't gone out. Like we had to run this thing. We didn't have too many staff. So like Saturday mornings I had to be there at 8 a.m. Which meant I couldn't go out on Fridays and the same with Sundays. So I felt like, man, I spent 2 fucking years doing this. All my friends were having fun and all these great stories and things that I felt like I missed out on.
Girls.
Yeah, exactly. For what? Like, for what? And there we go. It's just turned off now. So I just had to not be so, get down on it and feel like it hadn't worked.
I want to dig deeper on that selfishly for me because I just turned 20 fairly recently and I'm sort of going through that same sort of headspace because my ambition would mean I have to work my eyeballs off, right? But it's like, did you, from your perspective, looking back on it now, did you leave anything on the table in a work capacity or also in just a living life capacity? Do you wish you did more of one or the other, or are you happy with the balance you struck?
It's really hard to answer that question because there's a lot of things, like I said, I missed out in my 20s.
Don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know, but I don't know if I could have done both. And if I had to pick, I'm pretty happy here. I'm getting to do a lot of the things I didn't do in my 20s now. Like I'm a lot more relaxed in life and, go out to dinners, I feel old going out to family or anything like that. But like I go to bed at midnight, so at most. But you know what, man, look, it's hard to say. Like you don't know what you don't know exactly. But I feel like if I had to do it again, I'd probably make the same choices.
So you wouldn't work more, you wouldn't party more, you were happy?
I think I found a relatively decent balance. I definitely worked more than I played, a shit ton more than I played, and maybe a little bit too much. And certainly, I think, like I said before, I never did a business plan, and I think a bit more smart, I may have been able to
do it quicker, more efficient.
Well, weed out a few of these ideas that I spent
too long on.
Yeah, not too long, but a lot of effort on.
Yep.
Like the internet cafe required a 5-minute sit down with someone that had any concept of a business plan and go, so you got 30 computers that can earn $3.50 an hour. So your maximum earning capacity is like $110 or whatever, right? Is that a good business when you're paying this much rent, all of this staff cost, all this licensing cost? You kind of go, no, that's a fucking terrible business.
Yeah.
Like who the fuck would do this?
Yeah.
And why? So, 5 minutes of thought would have saved me 2 years in some ways. But in saying that, running that business taught me the most important life lesson, which was never fucking do a retail business. Like I do not want to be involved in a business where people come to me on a one-to-one relationship and I provide one service for one person and then I have to provide that same service for another person. I want to run a one-to-many business where I'm creating something that scales. Like, fuck, it's the age of the internet, right? Like that's why like I look at some businesses and they're doing one-to-one stuff and I go, fuck man, like this.
Real estate.
Yeah, real estate. At least you guys make more commission than a $3.50 an hour.
Very true.
Yeah. So I mean, everything works. Everything is a balancing act, right? So, but real estate. I mean, look at realestate.com.au. Look at domain. So that's the sort of real estate I would have loved to have.
You would have gone, yeah. You always think about it from a different angle.
Yeah. So and we did have the CEO of realestate.com.au in our board.
Yeah, who was on
for a while. So interesting character.
So you touched on goals. Let's linger on that for a sec. Talk me through the importance of setting goals or having a vision board or being able to see clearly where you're headed. Because I guess it's kind of hard to get to point B from point A if you don't know where point B is or you don't point the ship in the right direction.
Yeah, look, for me, it's a lot easier to look up here and then work backwards.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to go up.
Reverse engineers.
Yeah, like if you know what you want, then you can always work a way to get there. But if you don't know what you want, then you're just fucking drifting, right? So, and a lot of people set goals and they set these, in the last 5-6 years, I've met a lot of people that are so far gone the path of self-development that I feel like they spend more time studying and learning than actually doing. So some people just go the complete fucking opposite. Like, as I said, I did a lot of it in my early days, but then I stopped. I was like, okay, like,
it's time to work now.
I feel like I've got a grasp of 5-6 different learnings, teachers, philosophies. I need to put that into what works for me and go out there and do it. And it did. Like I sort of came up with my own methodology of what worked for me. Like there was people saying, oh, you need to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning and do a run. And I was like, I back when I was doing this, I used to go to bed at 3:30 and wake up at like 11. Like that's just what worked for me.
Worked for you, right?
That's what worked for me. I like to work at night time because there's such less distraction. And you talk to most personal development people and they tell you that's the worst time to work is because of all these rhythms and all this crap and creativity. Nah, man, that's just crap. It's what works for you, right?
What works for you.
What works for me. I did my best work at like 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, right.
And that's still true for me today. I'm just that kind of person.
Just wired that way.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the whole running thing because you fairly recently got into the fitness scene hard. So you were working out nearly every day, right, for a good chunk of time. Are you still doing that?
I'm doing that, man. I've missed 6 days of gym since November 2017.
Insane.
Yeah, so I got to about 106 kilos, and I thought, like, I was in the morbidly obese category, believe it or not.
What, like classified?
Yeah.
Black and white, wow.
I know, it's weird to think that, because I was like, I'm not really that fat, am I? I'm not that fat. I mean, you do the BMI index, which, you got to take with a grain of salt, but you do the BMI index, and it was like morbidly obese. It's like, fuck, okay, maybe I should do something about that. But like I was saying before, I either do it or I don't do it, right? So one day I was like, all right, I'm going to lose some weight, and I'm going to go to the gym. And so I went from eating absolute shit and not ever exercising.
Cold turkey, basically.
Yeah, to exercising every single day from one day.
And eating cold turkey.
and doing a bit of like a semi-keto diet. And I lost about 26, 27 kilos. And
insane.
I'm still doing it. Like
helps with business? Clearer mind, clearer thoughts, more energy? No?
People ask me, like, oh, you must feel so much better about life and
stuff. Not really, yeah.
I'm like, I feel better because mentally I managed to achieve something that I didn't think I could. And it feels good to be able to reach a goal. Like my goal was to My goal was to hit 85, so from like 105 to 85, and I actually managed to get under 80 and then sort of worked it back up to what I was happy with. Like I'm not super thin, but I like I'm now at a weight where I can
You have to look at the old photos of you to sort of see the start.
Yeah, but I've always been overweight.
Yeah.
So it was good for me to get down to a weight that I was really happy with. But I guess for me, as I said, it was just being able to get that goal. And I sort of set a timeline for it, and I really got into it. I bought the smart scales, and I was weighing myself every day because there was an accountability factor, and that really helped. And I could measure it, and when I could measure it, it really helped.
Measure, you manage.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Back on CarAdvice. So I guess to fast forward things a little bit, let's go to after you brought Anthony on. So he invited you to his mansion on the Gold Coast, right? And he was involved in Drive.com a little bit.
Yeah, they did Drive TV, which is
Drive TV, right?
Drive TV is a TV show, yeah. So.
And then you brought him on, and he was kind of the yin to your yang, because you were self-admittedly wouldn't be the best CEO. You're not
with Anthony, to be honest, but So Anthony sent me an email maybe 6 months in and said, "Oh, I've been looking at CarAdvice, love the site. Can we catch up? Maybe there's something we can do together." Okay.
Why not?
I was so embarrassed going meeting him because at the time I had like this 1993 purple Falcon, Ford Falcon that I
love the crazy colours. Still love it.
Yeah, well, that wasn't by choice. And it was so embarrassing that whenever I did go out, I used to park it so far away from the press because no one could see me get out of the car. Anyway, I got a friend of mine who had a nice car to drive me up, so I looked like we were actually showing up in something decent. You know?
Yeah.
First appearances, but I met Anthony, great guy, really gelled. As I said, we've been friends ever since. He's a really good guy, and his ability to make connections, meet people. He's a very, very likable character as a default state, and then he's really good at everything else socially as well on top of it.
So it worked really well.
So it worked really well because at the time, like as a young 20-something-year-old, my social skills were not really that great, but also because the industry is much older than me, or was much older than me at the time. It's very hard for someone in that age group to really
Connect.
make a proper connection with someone in their 40s and 50s and so on, which is what
Same problem, yeah.
Yeah, so, it helped to bring on a partner like that, and obviously he'd been in the auto industry before, and he was extremely passionate, and he still is extremely passionate about every fucking thing, even shampoo if you get him talking.
Yeah.
So, like, that really helped the business grow, and I fundamentally believe that it was a fundamental part of CarAdvice's success was
to bring him on.
Bringing him on, and also people after that were really, I had one of the things I did learn from doing a lot of personal development was making sure the only people I ever hire were better than me. There was no ego in regards to, oh, fuck, this guy's going to be better than me. It's going to be someone that's going to replace me. That wasn't even a moderate thought at any point in time. It was all about getting people that were the absolute best at what they did and make sure that they were happy they were there and that they got some form of reward for being there that I thought was fair. So we did have an ESOP, employee share ownership program. So we did give away a lot of shares to a lot of key staff.
Yeah, I know that, and I guess your mindset behind that, right, is you wouldn't work.
I wouldn't work for anyone.
You wouldn't work for someone who didn't have equity in it. So
no.
Give equity to the people who are working for you, and
that's
they'll
true.
work.
Yeah, I that's exactly right, and I still feel that way. I would find it quite difficult to work for a business that I didn't have a personal vested interest in. So we gave away a fair bit of shares. Some of the early guys that came on made a fair bit of money.
Yep.
And I'm happy with that. Like I don't regret it. The only things I regret is perhaps raising money at poor valuations and things like that.
Yep.
Initial, angel investment at a very ridiculous valuation.
So hard to, estimate future cash flows and.
Well, it's I've met a lot of business owners that own 100% of a business that's shit, and you kind of go, how did you get here? Oh, well, we just have never taken on a partner, been so scared of giving away equity in their business to the right people because they want to own all of it, because they think somehow 100% of nothing is worth more than 20% of something massive.
Huge.
So, by the time we sold CarAdvice, I was still the biggest shareholder. But there was a lot of other shareholders. I think we had a lot of investors. We went through a pre-IPO round because we were going to list the business on the ASX.
Yeah, you got a list, but then Channel 9 came sniffing.
Yeah. Look, there were multiple occasions where we were days away from insolvency.
And I want to touch on that in a sec, because there's two things. I wish we had time to sort of go every step in the CarAdvice journey, but to sort of touch on the highlights. One part I was really, really fascinated about is the whole credibility crisis you had in the early days when you were trying to get your hands on cars, and sort of the way you solved that. I guess it was Anthony's idea. If we can't convince Audi and Mercedes and BMW to give us our cars, let's get the fastest and most expensive car on the planet.
It sounds like a crazy idea.
It's the best idea.
Yeah.
And before we get into that story, what was it that BMW executive said to you when you were trying to get your hands on it?
It's really funny. I was at a BMW launch yesterday, and they had a new head of public relations there. And going back 13 years or 12 years ago, the person who was running it at the time, when I asked them for cars, they said, "Oh, the internet and CarAdvice in particular is where people go to learn how to steal BMWs, not how to buy them." And I thought, Jesus, all right, that's what do you say back to that, right? That's how the view of the internet was back in the day. It was a great quote. I always remember
it. It is my favorite. When I read that and heard that I could not stop laughing for about 5 minutes.
I thought it was hilarious.
It is. Hindsight's 20/20, right? It's easy to say now. At the time, you can kind of maybe see where he's coming from, but you just saw the opportunity, right? They just didn't have.
Oh, look, that obsession with print and traditional forms of media like magazines and stuff is it's still there in some ways. The internet is very fast-paced and things progress very quickly. I think people I mean, if you were looking at buying a car now, you're not going to go and buy a magazine, are you?
Google it. Google the car I want to buy, and then CarAdvice pops up. Yeah.
Yeah, read a few things, CarAdvice, a few other guys, but you're not going to
I'm not going to a newsstand.
You're not going to a newsstand looking for a mag, or you're not going to go buy the paper and hope that somehow the review you're after
you find it. Yeah.
But you know what, man? Like, that's just the reality. I guess it's a generational thing, right? So, you know, we come from an internet generation. Some people don't.
Well, the next thing, I guess it's going to be hard for us to make that shift because it's probably coming, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Virtual reality, AI, whatever it may be.
Possibly.
But on this Bugatti story, tell us how it all came about, because it started with a simple email, didn't it?
Yeah, so like you said before, we had this issue of not being able to get access to cars. And I'm not talking about Ferraris and Lambos. I'm talking about BMWs and Audis and even Hondas. And people just didn't know who we were. They didn't understand. They didn't understand the internet. It was all I mean, we're talking about 2006 here, not 1996. Like talking about a time where the internet was well and truly established and growing. But Australia is always about 5 years behind the States when it comes to sort of progression of the web. And yeah, we ran into a lot of troubles. And Anthony's idea was, well, if these idiots won't give us cars, why don't we go and drive the fastest and most expensive car in the world, which was at the time the Bugatti Veyron. And then once we do that, it can't be that hard to get Audis and BMWs because we've driven a $2.7 million car. So I said, well, why the fuck would Bugatti give us a car if we can't get a Honda? If I can get a Honda Civic, how are we going to get a Veyron?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, we'll get the Bugatti. We'll get the Bugatti. So Tony's very good at connections. He's made a few connections. Managed to find a couple of connections up to Bugatti through people he knew and things like that. Sent an email to the head of PR at Bugatti and said, oh, hi, we're from Australia, we'd like to come and drive the Veyron. Is that, blah, blah, blah. And the response was very short. It was like, okay, what days would you like the car? And he's like, he called me up and he's like, oh, I think they said yes, man. I'm like, who said yes? I'm like, Bugatti said yes. I'm like, bullshit. I'm like, no, I'm serious. They asked us when we're going to come. I'm like, what the fuck?
Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
You just went straight to the top and
we gave him this proposal of what we were going to do. We're going to shoot a factory tour. We're going to shoot the car. Here is what we've done before. These are some stuff that we've done. We had a bit of a showreel, I suppose. So there was a bit of, this is who we are, this is where we're going. And the guy was young at Bugatti. He understood the
digital
future. Yep. And this car for Bugatti, which is owned by Volkswagen, was all about branding, was all about building the image of VW as an engineering company. And he's like, oh yeah, well, these guys look like they know what they're doing. And then we were like, fuck, we have to get over to France.
We've got to put tickets.
Yeah, we have to fucking go to France. So we managed to get the Bugatti, and then once we had the Bugatti, we called Lambo and said, oh, hey, we're coming over to drive the Bugatti. You wouldn't happen to have some Lambos for us to drive while we were there? Oh yeah, sure, come drive these. And then same with Aston Martin.
It's all happening.
Managed to line up all cars, and I must have gone overseas 152, probably more times since then.
Wow.
For work.
Yeah.
Maybe even 200 by now. But that still is my favorite trip we did because it was all self-planned, self-managed, self-funded, and we were so poor and so broke that it was hilariously funny because just trying to get food and accommodation. We were staying at this hotel near the Bugatti factory in Molsheim, which is like border of France and Germany, and it was it could have been like a half a star motel or hostel or whatever it was, or a prison. And then the next morning, we're at the Bugatti factory driving the world's most expensive $2.7 million car.
Yeah.
It was some of the funniest stuff. It's such a great story. And then we filmed this video on a home camera, basically that had tape, right? We filmed it on a home camera, and the video came out pretty reasonable because we had a really good video guy.
Yeah, I just watched it the other day.
Yeah, I mean, for the time.
Yeah.
And we put it online. And if you look at it now, I laugh because I'm dressed like a homeless person.
That's the funniest part, because you even said I didn't realize the distribution, you just didn't know. So you're like, oh, just
and Anthony
t-shirt,
was wearing pants
jeans.
that were at least 6 times too big for him. It was just the funniest shit. But we made this video, we put it online, and within 12 hours, YouTube featured it on their homepage.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So it went from getting nothing. It was the first proper video I suppose we've done, and it just kind of went really crazy. Back in the day when you had 500,000 views, it was incredible.
That's big.
That was fucking, back then in YouTube in 2008 was off the charts, right? For an Australian publication. And we were also the first people that had ever filmed inside the Bugatti factory. Not Australians, first people ever.
I heard that as well.
Yeah.
So and that's why I guess Discovery Channel picked it up.
Yeah, Discovery Channel picked it up. It still runs on repeat in some random hours, but for a couple of years there, that show was all over the world, and they had these clips of me talking about the car inside the factory and driving it, and people would find me on Facebook. Oh, I saw you on this.
You're the Bugatti guy.
Yeah. I thought some people actually thought I worked for Bugatti or something, but man, the amount of good PR we got out of that was incredible.
And when you got back, I think I heard you saying, even though you managed to pull this off, the impact wasn't as instant and as easy as you thought. So it still took a little while to sort of build the relationships, even though you had this huge win, which was pretty interesting. But I kind of want to skip ahead towards the GFC time. Because
that's not far ahead, man. That's only about 6 months after that.
Yeah, I know, because you were so young into your business when the GFC hit, only about 3 years old, and it hit you hard. It hit the car industry hard.
It hit
not
the
a
car
good industry to be a part of.
extremely hard, yeah. So that was a period when we were days away from insolvency.
So for the people who don't understand the sort of intensity of this, walk us through the numbers. What was the numbers before, and then what did it drop down to, and what were your outgoings? How scary was this?
I can't give you exacts, but like we went from earning maybe 30 to 40 grand a month to earning like 5 or 6 grand a month as a business. And then we had all these employees, so you can't pay them. So we were desperate for cash. We were cash strapped. The marketing budgets were being cut. We had full-time staff that we couldn't really pay. And at the same time, we planned a second trip overseas to drive more supercars, which was poorly timed in retrospect. And we had to raise money fast and quick. We had some investor money and things like that. But that trip, the second trip to drive 12 of the fastest cars in the world, I worked out at some point that between Tony and I, it cost us more in equity that we could have bought all the cars that we drove to get that trip happening, because we had to, it was something very close to it, that we sold equity at such a poor valuation. Because
you just needed it.
We just needed it. And we had a couple of sponsors that came on board to sponsor that trip that didn't come through. We had an energy drink company that pulled out, said they were there, and that energy drink company's, I think, 15 grand in sponsorship would have paid for that trip. And for us to get that money at such a late hour, it just, the equity was scarily poor. Like it was a terrible thing to do, but it happened.
Had to do it right, necessary evil almost.
I guess
did you not have to do that one?
I don't think we had to do that one.
Yeah.
We actually didn't get the content we wanted from it, so it was a bit of a failure, that one.
Live and learn, right?
Live and learn.
But obviously, after the GFC, you did recover, as did a lot of people. Some people went out of business, obviously, a lot did, but you pulled through, which is an achievement in of itself as well. But today, sort of, I guess, or back in the day, one thing you really focused on for growth was culture. Everyone who you hired had to love cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I learned really early on from Steve Jobs about culture, just by reading a lot of stuff about how he ran not only Apple but Pixar in particular.
Yeah.
There's that great story of him firing anyone at Pixar that couldn't draw.
Crazy.
He pulled everyone into a room and asked who, anyone can't draw, and fire them.
I'd never heard this.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
It's in a book I read where he basically fired anybody at Pixar that didn't know how to draw, because he felt like working for Pixar, you need to have a creative side to understand the business better. And sort of I really embraced that ethos internally for a long time. I mean, obviously, when things get a bit bigger and out of control, I found it quite difficult. But for a very long time, my idea was that no one should ever work at CarAdvice. Doesn't matter what they're doing. If they don't have a love for cars. And I think even today, that still very much holds true. Yeah.
Big part of your success.
Big part of culture, and because, we have an office, big office in Sydney and a big office in Melbourne. And it's even though it's quite old, up until very recently, it still had a very much of a startup vibe to it. There's table tennis and there's driving simulators, and cool. People wear shorts, and it's not really a professional,
formal sort of workplace. Yeah.
I don't own suits. One of my life goals was to never own a suit. I have one now, and I really am ashamed.
Disappointing.
Yeah, I'm not a suit guy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things there that I had a lot of personal pride in not getting to that, not having a uniform or stuff like that. It was just, I really liked that startup culture from Silicon Valley, and I really sort of embraced that pretty hard.
Integrate that here.
Yeah.
And when did kids come into the picture?
When I was 27.
Yeah. And Ari's your oldest?
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
And you have 2 now, right?
Yeah.
Two kids.
Yeah, the kids drive me mad, but we love the kids. So.
What's it like being a dad?
What
have you learnt?
I learned to appreciate my sleep prior. One of the podcast, the trans podcast, stopped after I had Ari because the time consumption was that was my spare time, and now I had a baby, and I felt like that was more important, which it was. So you make sacrifices, right?
How do you balance that? I mean, when you have a family and you're running a business of this magnitude, how do you juggle all those things? Is it easy?
Well, I was very, very fortunate that my wife was extremely supportive of my business and our ambition, I should say, not just my ambition, but our ambition to make it something big. So she sort of really took it upon herself to give me the time and the mental capacity to continue to run and operate CarAdvice. That didn't mean I didn't spend time with my kids. It just meant that like she would do all the hard work. Like morning shifts and when the kids were
Cooking,
sick and
cleaning,
I traveled heaps. So it's very much a single mum in many ways for extended periods of time. But you know what? Like that's why when people ask me about success of CarAdvice, I would put her as just as equally important. Because it wouldn't have been possible to do it. Otherwise, I would have had to. If she was working or if she was not able to give me as much help, I would have not been able to spend as much time.
So you think a partner's really important? Life partner is important.
I think if your partner doesn't support your ambitions or doesn't believe in you,
you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. Yeah, because that's your number one support person. Like that's the person you go to when shit doesn't work and they build you back up, not tear you down. So I think that's really important.
Excellent. And let's get to the juicy part, this sale.
Yeah.
So I know we're fast tracking a little bit here, but I have no idea what a business transaction of this level, how the mechanics of that sort of operate. But talk me through the day, I guess the last day when the negotiations had already taken place and you were going in to sign on the dotted line. What was that day like? Were you excited when you woke up? What was that day? Do you remember it?
Yeah, man. I was more excited when I saw my bank balance. That was far more exciting. I went to the ATM and got a few printouts because I thought that was cool to keep as a
What was that feeling like when you see those numbers?
You don't believe it. Because it's not real. Like it's not real money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Digits on a screen.
Yeah, it's digits. I mean, fuck, you could Photoshop it if you really wanted to. Like it's weird. Like because I don't know, it's really weird. Like up until that point, particularly the few years prior, we were really struggling. Like not just as a business, but even for me, like we were. Like the money wasn't really there, and we had before the main transaction, we sold a bit of shares to Macquarie Bank, and that was really helpful. Like that really alleviated some financial pressures on us, and that actually really helped me make better decisions because I didn't need the money as much. Obviously, I sold the shares for a less valuation, but it allowed me to make better decisions going forward. So we decided in 2014 15 to list the business because at that same time we'd ran out a sort of a campaign to try and sell it. We had no buyers. Like I think we had the best offer we had was $4 million for the whole thing. At a time where we were making more money as like a income per year. So it was a bizarre period of time, right? It's funny when you try and sell something.
You
know better than me. When you try and sell something, people go, oh. When something's not for sale, it's very different.
Yeah. 100%.
So it's just supply and demand, I suppose.
Supply and demand. I guess people want what they can't have.
Exactly. So when the word got out that we were looking to list it,
Channel 9 came sniffing.
A few people came sniffing around, and it was interesting because this asset was being taken off the market. Once it listed, it would be a lot harder, if not impossible, to own it. So if you wanted it, you had to make it happen now.
Had to move quick.
So you're right. It was. I remember being. It must have been 1 a.m. in some random office in the middle of Sydney CBD, going through all the final paperwork, and finally, like just signing all the things, and the last signature went on. It was still like weeks before we got paid, but it was weird. Like it was a bit surreal, yeah. Yeah, it was a bit surreal. It's not really real till you see the money in the bank, and even then, it took like a month
to sink in properly.
Yeah, it took like a month to realize I'm not broke.
Yeah,
it's a good feeling. Yeah, it's a good feeling.
Mate, we have to head towards wrapping up in the next sort of 5-10 minutes, but was that day the best day of your life, would you say?
No, I don't think it was the best day of my life, but
what
it was certainly sorry?
What is the best day?
I don't know. I tend to have very good days quite frequently. I don't really I've never really thought of one as the best day. That's a very memorable day for all the right reasons.
All the right reasons.
Yeah, I called my wife and I think she said, "Holy fuck, we're not broke." And I said, "No, I don't think we are anymore." And I think it was just nice. Like it was, and it's you make very different life decisions when you're not broke, or when you're financially set. You do things differently. You make different decisions. You know, you make it for the right reasons sometimes, not for necessity reasons. So that's been the biggest change.
Yeah. What about your worst day? Do you have a worst day?
A worst day? Yes, my worst day business-wise was in 2014-15 when, as I said, we were running this process to sell the business. And I was on a flight from Brisbane to Hong Kong, and the deadline was like 4 p.m. for the offers to come in. So that was it. Like I was like, fuck yeah, and hopefully we'll get an offer to sell the business, because I was really cash strapped personally. And I landed, it was like 6 p.m. Sydney time, whatever time it was in Hong Kong, I can't remember. I got off the phone, can't wait to fucking turn my phone on and see
all these offers.
See something, see something. And there was nothing on my phone, and I thought, oh, okay, like I better call Anthony. I called Anthony. I said, oh man, the best we got was 4 mil. And I thought, you gotta be fucking kidding. He goes, yeah. And it was like, I actually like sat at the Hong Kong airport. I remember I was sitting thinking, fuck, what a waste of time this has been. Like, so much effort. But then, you know what, man? I refocused. I went, well, fuck that. Like, this is worth way more than that. This is the best car site in Australia. If these idiots don't see it, then it's their own fucking fault. So we just doubled down and worked twice as hard and just really built the business. Said, no, it's not for sale. You can fuck off now. So, and when something's not for sale, then
they want it that much
people
more.
Want it.
Yeah. Second last question. I guess what you've achieved with the eventual sale of CarAdvice is almost sort of the epitome of what most people who are getting into business aspire to sort of achieve in the end. That's the end goal. Big sale, lots of publicity. It's a huge, big deal. On that day, or from that day, I mean, how are your happiness levels compared then versus now? I mean, not just the money, but what the money afforded you to do, or the mindset the money allowed you to have. So have your happiness levels gone higher since that sale, or have you always just been enjoying the process of building?
Oh, look, I'm not one of those guys that would prescribe to the concept that money makes you happy. I think it just gives you financial freedom, so you can do things differently, make different decisions. In some ways, actually, the build up to the sale was the happiest period, because it's like this, when you knew it was going to happen, or
it's all exciting.
It was so exciting, and then after you got the money, it was kind of a bit of emptiness. Like, oh,
that's it.
There's the money, right?
Yeah.
It was a two-part sale, so it really only finalized last year.
Yeah.
So that was when that last tranche of money came in. It was like all right, I don't actually own this thing anymore. Like there's no equity in there. So there was actually a bit of sadness, to be perfectly honest. But I'm still there. I'm still working hard, and I love what I do. And those guys that start businesses with the pure, simple concept goal of, I'm gonna start this, 12 months gonna happen, 18 months that, and then I'm gonna exit. It doesn't always work like that, man. Like I think if you start a business to solve a problem, or if you start a business because you love what you do, the rest of it will work out on its own. I'm not saying you shouldn't have an exit strategy or whatever. But I think you got to do it for the right reasons.
Do it for the passion.
Do it for the right reasons. Yeah, do it because you're helping someone. Like we are now the biggest car site for editorial. Like, more people read us to find out what car to buy than anywhere else. And that, for me, that makes me feel good, because that's what I set out to do in the first place. Like, that was literally the goal of CarAdvice. That's why it's called CarAdvice. So, yeah.
And you achieved that.
I think so.
Incredible.
I think so. Yeah.
Before we finish up with the last question, where can everyone who's interested find you on social media and find?
Just my name, man, which is hard to spell, but I'm sure it's done on the screen somewhere. So
yeah,
just
it'll be there in the
dash
beginning.
that name, and feel free to send through any questions, because I'm always answering. Sometimes at 2 a.m. in the morning, but I'll be there.
Yeah, you are. You're really responsive to all your comments as well.
I try to be.
Good to see.
I try to be.
Last question. You're now an entrepreneur in residence at UQ, so you do a lot of mentoring with the students there who are getting into the startup space and doing that sort of thing. I mean, if you had 1 minute and 60 seconds to sort of speak to a group of smart, young, intelligent people, maybe they're in uni, maybe they're not, but they're wanting to get into the startup space and they're wanting to do well, but they're also wanting to create a fulfilling life at the same time and not spend too much time doing this instead of that and living their best life. What are you going to say to those people if you only had a minute?
I would need less, man. I would need probably 10 seconds, and I just said, just fucking do it. Like, if you got an idea, just do it. Like, stop procrastinating. Stop trying to come up with reasons to validate the business plan or all sorts of other shit. Like, at that age, man, you've got time. Trust me, you've got a fucking lot of time, because as you get older, time goes like this, you know? So when you're in that age group, in your early 20s or whatever, just do it. Just try it. If it doesn't work, do something else, try it. Keep failing, because eventually, the good thing with failure is, eventually it means it's success. So no one has ever been successful without failing repeatedly. No one. I've never met a successful person that won't tell you a fuck ton about their failures. So don't be afraid to fail and just do it.
I love it. Alborz, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.